What up, Dokkanners? With all of the chaos from the new content that dropped yesterday, 2 days ago at this point, I was not able to make this video. So some of you guys might have already heard about this, but there's been some chatter online about the idea of a baby Dokkan festival coming up next, either as an LR or a TUR, but it looks like we are going to be getting something to that effect. And so this video is just going to basically be catching you guys up on how we got to this point. Where did this come from? What happened that led to this conclusion? Because at the moment, nothing has been confirmed through official channels. This is all based on data mine information. So while some of you may be aware of the information because you guys have other sources, you guys look at social media, you watch other videos and stuff like that, I still want to make this video for those of you who watch the channel and don't have any other means of finding this stuff out. So let's jump in here. And also, I was not able to make this video sooner because we had like, what, 5-6 videos to make yesterday? And I got family visiting, so it's extra special and chaotic for me right now. But anyway, so this all stems from the ID table. You guys have been hearing a lot about this recently. The ID table is basically just a list of IDs associating with various characters. TLDR, just to oversimplify, each character, however they're built, come with multiple IDs, a single ID. It all just depends on how complex the character is. If the character underwent EZAs, there are a certain number of IDs. If the character's an LR, certain number of IDs. Super EZAs, certain number of IDs. So to oversimplify, this is how we sort of look at each character. So this Super Baby 2 EZA consists of 7 IDs because 7 steps of the Extremes Awakening. Same with the Trunks, so on and so forth. Super EZAs are a singular ID. So based on nerd stuff, all that, it looks like we are getting a new LR, a new TUR, and another LR EZA. So this was back in July 28th, 2025. So based on the fact that the IDs missing are around GT characters, one can assume that the missing characters might also be from the GT family. This is something that we've talked about in the past. I believe there was a wave, I think it was last year's Golden Week, not this one, but last year when we were having a massive Majin Buu Saga celebration. There was a lot of discussions around ID tables, and we had a similar situation happen where there were IDs missing between various Majin Buu Saga characters, and then when we ultimately got them, they were also Majin Buu Saga characters. So this is, I think, where the idea sort of started, where people were thinking, oh, you know what, maybe we could get something baby related, something from GT, maybe Legic, maybe Black Star Dragon Ball Saga, maybe Rildo, stuff like that. That's where it started. Then we jump over to the following day where Rick chimes in. The LR here does seem more likely to be summonable since there's even one more slot missing from the Cards Awakening table. Again, nerd stuff. Don't want to, complicate things with all that. Free-to-play units usually only require 1 set of medals per awakening. So this is sort of just adding fuel to the fire. Not necessarily confirming anything, but, Proton and Rick are 2 of the most prolific data miners in the community. So when they're talking about stuff like this, it generally tends to mean something. Then the infamous leak, July 31st, when I did my JP data download video. I even talked about this in the video because we had an extra map asset in the game or in the files. This is not something that the global version even had. This was a JP exclusive thing, so JP made a big old boo-boo. And this map is event ID 1515, not yet in the database, and it is a Dokkan Festival event. So from that one piece of news, everyone took it and ran because it confirms stuff and it deconfirms stuff. Number one, it confirms that it is not Daima. Daima is not going to happen because there is no scene in Daima that involves any of this. Number two, it means that it's probably going to be something GT related because eagle-eyed viewers quickly noticed that the scenario looks very similar to one specific GT scene. Where is it? This one. The baby arc. So this is how we got to this point. The baby arc. Now, I know some of you will probably say, Toon, it's a generic green zone with, pointed trees and whatnot. That is just typical Dragon Ball. Sure. But when you consider the ID table and the fact that the theme sort of fits, and when you consider this next piece of news, the fact that these events are set to come back at the same time as the second content drop in the second half of part 2. Remember, we still don't have the Shadow Dragon's burst mode. This is the whole thing that leaked in the part 1, right? That hasn't released yet. The choice battle also hasn't released. And mind you, the GT people are in here. So this is dropping, and these 2 events are also dropping all at the same time. So with all of these things happening, that too 1 week before the original theoretical end of the Global Dokkan celebration, and the fact that it's ending a week later does lead a lot of people to think that it's going to be GT related. So that is why we got to this point with the whole baby arc thing. You could argue that this could be other stuff, but honestly, what else could that be? Black Star Dragon Ball Saga was entirely off planet. This obviously is planet Earth. The one that I was thinking about, so the first two things that I thought about was when I looked at this like green to beige gradient sort of thing here, I thought Mount Paozu, and then I started thinking Dragon Ball. And then I started thinking Dragon Ball GT, A Hero's Legacy. I thought that this might be that scene where Goku Jr. meets like Pumbaa and Mamba and all those guys, the purple warthog man, Yamu, whatever, that dude, right? Thought it could be that. But if we're talking a summonable unit, they are not going to do a summonable Goku Jr. They are not going to do a summonable purple Pumbaa. They're not going to do a summonable Mamba. No, they're not doing any of that. It's going to be something a lot more box office. Baby is more box office than Black Star Dragon Balls. Baby is more box office than The Hero's Legacy. Baby is more, I would say Baby is the most, the Baby arc is probably the, okay, I'm going out on a limb here, so you guys can let me know. Would the Baby arc be even more hype than the Shadow Dragon arc? Because while the Shadow Dragon arc is the end of GT, the introduction of Super Saiyan 4 was the Baby arc. What I'm trying to say is, if they're trying to make a selling point from GT, they're not going to use the low stuff, the low hype stuff. They're not going to bring in The Hero's Legacy. They're not going to bring in Black Star Dragon Balls. It's going to be Baby. So this is pretty much Baby. Rip Daima, the dream is dead once again. So we'll come back to the whole, like, you know, when will Daima fit later on? Right now is not the time. Adding a couple more things here. Once again, Proton updates on August 1st. That is once again going to be an LR, a TUR. Both of those are going to be new, and an LR EZA based on the IDs that are missing. So one question coming out of this new revelation is the Baby going to be an LR or a TUR? So we will discuss that, because it is possible that it could be either one. It could be an LR simply on the merits that this is an anniversary caliber celebration. An anniversary caliber celebration comes with it 3 parts at least, but then also based on the established precedent in the 10th anniversary, which had 6 LRs, we could be looking at maybe 5 LRs dropping during Global Dokkan Celebration. If the Baby Vegeta were to be the 5th summonable LR, then that would explain this. And with that being a Dokkan Festival LR, there would be a new TUR banner unit, which would be whatever else. I don't know, Baby Bulma or Bulla, or I don't know, something like that, right? That could be one possible situation. The one that I'm thinking is that it's more likely that we are getting a new TUR Dokkan Festival Baby, and then we're going to be getting a separate summonable LR at a later point. Because keep in mind, as you guys saw here, this graphic is very relevant right now. After August, after whenever we finish the Global Dokkan Celebration in August, we then have a new Tanabata campaign happening in September. So I talked about this a couple weeks ago. This is sort of the final layout for the transition from the Global Dokkan Celebration into Tanabata. We have to have basically 2 more banners before we jump into the month of September. So we are now into August, and as you guys know, a month is approximately 4 weeks. The golden rule is that every banner gets about 2 weeks time. So if we're going to be fitting 2 summons into 4 weeks, then the first half of August would be a typical Dokkan Festival. And then part 2, the final 2 weeks, would be a legendary summon, some sort of LR character. So that's where I would feel that this would probably be more suited. That way, you might not necessarily feel most compelled to summon for a new TUR, similar to how the Daima Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta was structured. It wasn't really part of the celebration, but they threw it in there for the extra money. But it was happening all the way in March, and it was just a TUR, and we had Saiyan Day coming up soon afterwards. So some people were like, yeah, Daima's cool and all, but after all those LRs, I'm good. So maybe they do the same thing for this, where as we transition out of the thank you celebration, we have one more like goodbye banner for a less high profile character like Baby Vegeta or Super Baby 1 or whatever. That could be a TUR. And then the LR could be a yellow coin legendary summon that also pertains to the Baby arc. Now, we've already covered the Super Saiyan 3 Goku from the Baby arc from the 10th anniversary, but there's one character that we have not truly covered yet. And that is, God, that is terrible quality. And that is Majub. If we could get a yellow coin summonable Majub, I would actually think that that would be really cool. That would be a really cool yellow coin, low profile banner to ease into the next celebration. Not many people are going to care. Not many people are going to summon. Only those who truly care will summon. And even those who maybe really do, but just don't have the means to do so, will be able to rest on the fact that we finally have a fully functioning summonable Majub character. We have a free-to-play one. He's pretty meh. We have that very mid-average, you know, STR rando that nobody cares about. So this could be the redemption that we needed. And again, more pieces to GT heroes and GT bosses. So that's kind of where we're at. We have no idea if it's going to be a Dokkan Festival LR or a TUR. That part remains to be seen. We'll probably need a couple more days minimum before we find out any more news. But I will just say one thing. This is just to play devil's advocate, kind of. But this is just my honest opinion. As far as it being GT related, I'm going to be honest, I kind of don't want that. I kind of don't want part 3 of this Global Dokkan celebration to have anything to do with GT. I think that GT has had a spectacular run during this part 2. So much so that it's quite honestly overwhelming just how well they've done. I think what would have been a better thing to do for part 3 would have been to throw in some Z or to throw in some Dragon Ball, because so far we've done a really good job of representing Dragon Ball Super in part 1, Dragon Ball GT in part 2. Let's share the wealth a little bit and throw in some Dragon Ball love or some Dragon Ball Z love. Of course, you know, Daima's dead, nobody cares anymore, but at least one of those could have fit in there. I think that would have been nicer. That's just my 2 cents. I'm sure, like, once I see the character, what he can do, I'll be very happy, as I usually am. I'm very easily impressed, but I just want to throw that out there. I personally feel like this would have been better suited for something else. I don't know, like an Android Cell Saga. You know what? Technically, this could still be Android Cell Saga. Just based on, like, just looking at appearance, it could still be Android Cell Saga, but with all the other clues sort of pointing in the direction of GT, I just don't think it's going to happen. So let's see, there's anything else here? I originally did play these animations to show how cool it could be, but my first draft got copyright claimed, so I can't do it. But I will tell you, as far as Super Baby, like this whole baby arc, it is just an absolute untapped well of potential. There is so much that they can do in terms of animations. This could be the entrance animation for Super Baby, where everybody's transferring their power. You could even have, oh my god, this transformation is so freaking cool. Like, look at that. That is so sick. So visceral. Then there's also the shot of Super Baby 1 transforming into Super Baby 2, where he performs like the negative malice spirit bomb. Like, I forgot about this completely. This is where the people of Earth, all infected by the whole Tuffle thing, right? They are sending their malice over to Baby, and he absorbs all of that hatred and powers up from Super Baby 1 to Super Baby 2. This form has like a record of like 2 minutes being on screen, and then it's just gone. But speaking of, this whole baby arc is so underrepresented. If we look at Super Baby 1 and Super Baby 2, there are a couple of Super Baby 2s, but there are 0 Super Baby 1s or Super Babies besides the free-to-play. This is our only rep for Super Baby 1. That's it. That's it. Actually, wait, you know what? Is this guy? Okay, this guy is too. But nobody uses him, so that's, I think my point still stands. This is our only free-to-play, fully functioning Super Baby 1 character, but he's not even, because look at that nonsense. And then is SSR Baby Vegeta. This is a crime. And then, not to mention all of these guys down here, the SSR Hybrid Saiyan villains. These are the only extreme Hybrid Saiyans in the game, mind you. These guys are only SSRs. They don't have TURs. They don't have EZAs. This stuff could potentially be what we get in, or as a part of this like final section of the Global Dokkan celebration. Maybe that's why this is coming back. Well, no, this is also because of the Vegeta, but still, there are other GT characters in here. Maybe they throw in a few more. Why not? That'd actually be pretty cool. So a lot of reasons to be happy about Baby coming up as the final part of this Global Dokkan celebration. I would personally prefer something else, but regardless, time will tell. So we still have a ways to go. I would say minimum 2-3 days, but as soon as we find out more information, I will let you guys know, either at this volume, a higher volume, or a lower volume, depending on when my family is up and about or hanging out with me. It's very busy over here. It's been great. Guys, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like down below. Leave in the comments your thoughts on the idea of a baby-themed Dokkan Festival celebration happening as the part 3. Would you be down for summoning again on another character And if so, would you rather that character be a Dokkan Festival LR or a TUR? What are your thoughts on the idea of a Dokkan Festival TUR baby with a follow-up Yellow Coin LR Majub? Let me know your thoughts overall. Anything else that I missed in the comments down below. Also, be sure to subscribe for more Dokkan content in the future and click the notification bell so that you'll let YouTube know you want to see more of my stuff. Do it. Thanks again. Stay tuned and remember to Dokkan responsibly.